massive edition of VFL 23. My name's Yeendy, and I've got the great man Rhodesy. We're into episode 8. Rhodesy, you had a big weekend, mate, on round 2 of the Smithies VFL with a couple of big night games. What was it like being out there on the road?
Yeah, love getting out on the road, especially down to Frankston. Friday night football, fantastic crowd. I don't think you can top things down there when the Dolphins pod is up and about on the hill down there. You're going to have to put it on your bucket list when you come down to Melbourne to get to a Frankston game because it is magnificent. And if they knew where the goals were, the fans might have had something really to get excited about on Friday night. And then Saturday at Port Melbourne versus Collingwood, ended up being a one-sided game on the scoreboard, but it was anything but that. And once again, a brilliant crowd, big crowd, a noisy crowd, who love getting behind their borough. And when we all know how passionate Magpie supporters are. So it was fantastic to get out under lights and see some wonderful footy.
Fantastic. In my opinion, the game that you had on Saturday night was probably one of the games of the weekend, just in terms of the hot start by the Pies, but the Borough were able to come back. It was a highly entertaining game of VFL footy.
It certainly was, yeah. The Magpies just flew out of the blocks and they kicked 7 goals in the first quarter to 2 and just got themselves off to a wonderful start. And you just thought, well, how far Collingwood? Because they are just on fire at the moment. They kicked, I think, 13 goals to 1 in the second half against Coburg in round 1. Their AFL team is flying. The VFL team was 5 goals up at quarter time in round 2 against a very good Port Melbourne team who had a great win over North Melbourne, and we'll talk about later how that form is stacked up with the Kangaroos. But yeah, the Port was then able to come back, really put the wind up them, got within a point, but then got within a goal, I should say. But then one crucial mistake gave away a 50-metre penalty, cost them a goal, and the Magpies will go on again.
That's probably the way footy goes sometimes, doesn't it? Particularly when you're chasing. It's that mental edge of being able to hit the front after coming from behind and being able to persist with that momentum. And mate, that's exactly what we saw in the opener of round 2 in the Smithies VFL the other night on Thursday night last week. The Brisbane Lions had to come from behind again, but mate, we were messaging each other across the game thinking how incredible this is. Once the Lions were able to get that psychological advantage of hitting the front after trailing by a bit, they were able to just plug away and hold that lead and hold on to a win.
They showed how good they are, didn't they? They looked gone against Werribee, they found a way to win. They looked gone against Footscray, they found a way to win. That's what the best teams do. And I've got no doubt that the Brisbane Lions are one of the better teams in the competition. And Footscray had a much stronger lineup than the one that went down to Casey in round 1. So they haven't knocked over an ordinary team in these first 2 weeks. I expect Werribee and Footscray to both be well and truly competing for good position in the finals. And to come from 4 goals and 5 goals down to get those wins and be undefeated after 2 weeks, it just shows what they're capable of, the Lions. So look out, they're going to be very hard to beat this year.
Absolutely. Well, it kind of sets up their big mouth-watering clash to start the Smithies VFL, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And of course, make sure you to jump on board with VFL 23. You can catch us on Spotify, you can catch us on iHeartRadio, Amazon Radio, iTunes, all those usual platforms that you can catch your favourite podcasts on, particularly with iTunes. I think I saw some data recently. They capture about 80% of the podcast market worldwide. So if you're on the iTunes, make sure you jump on that. We'll go through just quickly through some of the other results from the weekend, and then I'll talk about the match that I saw, which was out of this world. But we had North Melbourne edging out Southport by 8 points. Did that match catch you off guard? Was that a bit of a surprise?
The result certainly did. I was there for 3 quarters. I got there about probably early in the second quarter for a look, and And yeah, I actually got talking to a lovely couple from Adelaide, and I'll send a cheery out to them, Lynn and Mark, who are actually the parents of the young goal umpire Georgie Henderson, who was making her VFL debut in the game on Saturday. So I had a good chat with them for about an hour and watched the game and saw that she's a very good young goal umpire. She's already umpired in the AFLW, so we expect to see her go a long way. So cheerio to the Henderson family if you're watching back home in Adelaide. But yeah, North Melbourne. I know I've said here that they're going to be a much improved team, that they're going to beat some sides. There's no question about that. But the way they played in that second quarter against Southport at Arden Street last week, when they kicked 6-1, there was a slight breeze heading towards the Kangaroos' end, maybe worth a couple of goals, certainly not worth 6. Southport, they did look a little bit out of sorts, a little bit off colour, which surprised me. Apart from Zach Foote, who was their best player by that far, it wasn't funny. Forget the fact that, of course, the ball magnets were the ball magnets again, but Zach Foote was the one that kept them in the game and got them back in the contest. He was outstanding. But for North Melbourne, the captain, Jack Watkins, the new captain, he was outstanding, had over 30 touches. Sam Lowson, who's come across from Coburg, has now kicked 9 goals in his first 2 games for the Kangaroos, 4 on the weekend. Ben Barth kicked a couple on debut as the 23rd man, so good on him as well. But North, they built their lead and then they held on to the lead. Which is what you were talking about a minute ago. And Southport threw everything at them in the last quarter and actually had 4 shots go out of bounds on the full, would you believe? So they'll probably feel they should have won the game. But yeah, all credit to North Melbourne, and they fully earned that victory. And once again, don't go to Arden Street thinking you're going to get an easy 4 points.
I'm going to throw a curly one out to you earlier on, mate, but Zach Foote, could he be one of the genuine surprise packers of this competition, have a breakout year, and maybe be a genuine contender for the League BNF? Because his first 2 games of the season, kicking quite a few goals, but his use of disposal, his presence around the contest, I think he would be coming under a lot of well-deserved attention.
That was probably the one thing that was missing last year. He was a good player last year, make no doubt about it, but now he's kicking goals. He's got himself off and running 3 there against the Kangaroos on the weekend. So if he adds that to his game, then you're seeing the ability, the class that he's got, that got him onto an AFL list and got him 2 AFL games for the Sydney Swans a few years ago. Who knows? If he can keep going along those lines, there may be a second opportunity for him. But at this stage, it will make the Sharks a lot more dangerous in the forward line if he's kicking goals as well as Boyd Woodcock and a few of those others like Tom Fields, who played his 50th game for Southport and kicked 3, including a trademark 55-metre bomb that got them back in the game in the last quarter. They're still a great side, Southport. There's no question about that. Which makes North Melbourne's win even better. But yeah, Zach Foote, keep an eye on him because you're exactly right. He's a quality player.
Maybe we put the good jinx on him. We had the pleasure of catching up with him in the off season as part of VFL 23. So maybe he was walking a bit taller after that chat, and he's hit the ground running after the first couple of rounds. Richmond had a solid 42-point win over Coburg on the night game as well. A tough contest. The Tigers just too strong by 7 goals.
Yeah, no problems there for Richmond. They took a while to get on top, but they were always a step ahead. They won every quarter by a couple of goals here and there, and by the end you find yourself 7 goals in front. I wouldn't have thought they'd be getting too excited about it, but it was a good win. It was an improved performance from Coburg from the week before. Only kicking 4 goals, 12 they'd be disappointed in, but they are a completely new team to last year, and it is going to take time. And if they can keep pushing these teams and make sure they don't get blown away as they were against Collingwood, then then you're going to see the positives come from Coburg. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I'm not ruling them out of being a chance to have a win this weekend.
Absolutely, there should be a building some momentum there. GWS had a comprehensive win over Carlton too. A bit of inaccuracy by the Blues, but the Giants, they responded well from that big loss to Essendon in round 1 of Smithy's VFL.
They certainly did. Lose by 80 points in round 1. They get back home and knock off a good team and knock them off easily. The thing that jumped out and impressed me the most was for the Giants was their young brigade. Mm-hmm. Their new draftees. They had three new draftees running around in the game. The number 1 pick, Aaron Cadman, kicked 3 goals. The number 16 or 17 pick, I think it was, Max Grozewski, he kicked 4. He was fantastic. And I'll just quickly bring up the numbers. Darcy Jones, who is the hard luck story, which I'll mention shortly. He was their other new player, and he unfortunately went down very early on. And it's since been confirmed that he will miss the rest of the year with an ACL. So yeah, horrible news for him. The number 21 draft pick out of last year, the West Australian boy. So bad luck, really bad luck for him, because he played really well in round 1 in a team that got flogged. So we certainly feel for him and for the Giants. But Josh Fahey is the one there. 42 disposals, 12 marks, 4 tackles, had his own football, and he's a fair part of the reason why the Giants won as well.
Well, we do send our best to the young player there, and hopefully with all the rehab that he has done, or he will do over the next 12 months, as we've seen with some of the younger players that have either coming through the under-18 system or earlier on, that professionalism that they show with their rehab is a testament to be able to build a better career. And I can speak out of school that when Jake Lever, who's running around in Melbourne doing wonderful things, he did 2 knees very early on. Actually, he had osteitis pubis, which kept him out for a while, and he did a knee injury in his first year in the under-18s competition. He was drafted the following year. But his professionalism there to his rehab would help set him up for a professional approach with his AFL football. So, with this young player here, with all that he has to go through now over the next 12 months, he might come back with a more professional approach and become a better footballer for it.
Well, we certainly hope so, because that's the sort of bright spark that you need out of something as disappointing as this. He'll have the operation quickly. The Giants will wrap their arm around him. Hopefully they'll let him go and spend some good quality time back with his family in Western Australia, while still doing all the rehab and help him get settled in the new club and really stick behind him.
Sunday's games, they were massive talking points themselves, but I want to turn to the first one. Casey were too strong for Sydney. Sydney ended up leading late in the first term. They were leading 20-19 before the Demons kicked 10 of the next 13 goals of the game to run away 42-point winners. What was your takeaway from that game?
It was actually 10 of the next 11, really, because the Swans kicked the last 2 to add a little bit of respectability to the score. Yeah, once again, Casey was a class above the Swans. I think they've now played 4 times, and all 4 results have been around about that 40 to 50 point mark. So that tells you that they're a class above. There's no question about that. They had some players, Casey, with points to prove after being dropped from the AFL team. Tom McDonald, Adam Tomlinson, both dominant in the game. Matt Jefferson, the young man who was their top draft pick this year, he really enjoyed being the man up forward, with Jacob Van Rooyen, of course, getting his chance at AFL level, and he kicked 4 goals. But yeah, from I think it was about the 20-minute mark of the first quarter, Sydney led 3 goals, 1 to 2 goals, 1, so 19 to 13. And from that point onwards, I think till the 20-minute mark of the last quarter, the Swans only managed to kick 1 goal, 8. So that tells you that they were quite wasteful, but it also tells you that Casey completely shut them down and gave them no room to move. The Swans took some positives out of the game with the young players coming through and performing well. I just thought it was a very, very, very good team, easily beating a good team. And yeah, Casey Demons is once again the team to beat. And the Swans have now, with the straight sets finished last year, have now lost their last 4 games. So they've got a bye this week. So they'll be desperate to get themselves going again in round 5.
Fingers crossed that they can rebound in a couple of weeks' time and return to some good form. For me, the one of the other Sunday games was this shock result from the weekend, having seen them in action at Southport, but Sandringham were 6-goal winners over Essendon. I think we saw a turnaround of nearly 20 goals over the space of 2 weeks, and the Bombers, well, they won by plenty in the opening week against the Giants, and to follow up with a 6-goal loss the following week, Sandringham, I don't know where they pulled this from, mate, but they were able to just do something extraordinary.
Yeah, you couldn't really pick it, could you? No. and that's what you want to see. If you can't pick what's going on in the well, you certainly can't pick a winner in the AFL at the moment. I think I've got 13 across the first 3 weeks, which is disgusting. The VFL, well, I thought that Sandringham would go a lot better than they did last week. And I didn't think that Essendon would go quite as well. But I certainly didn't think an 86-point loss and an 80-point win would end up being 37 points in the other direction. But there were some key takeaways from that. Tom Campbell, who is very close to the best ruckman in the competition, came back into the team for Sandringham, made his presence well and truly felt. That allowed Max Heath, who had to play first ruck in round 1 for the Zebras against Southport, and of course he got monstered by Braden Crossley. He was able to go back down to full forward and he kicked 5 goals. So and that is who he is. Max Heath is a key forward, who was filling in the ruck, I suppose, for lack of a better term. Jack Bytel, the Saints listed player, came in and had 34 touches as well. So it sort of straightened them up. It got them going. They took their chances early. Essendon kicked the first 2 goals, but then it was all Sandringham after that. And the Bombers were never really in it, despite another 4 goals from Patrick Voss, who is in some very good form at the moment.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a senior call-up very soon. And on to my massive talking point for the weekend, mate, because I'm still in disbelief having been at Heritage Bank Stadium. But the Gold Coast Suns, 28-14, 182 to 11-9-75. I'm still shocked. And I'm also shocked that Gold Coast didn't end up going on to kick 30 goals, because at one stage in the last quarter, they were 25 goals 9, and they kicked 3 goals 5 with their last 8 scoring shots. Just a mesmerising display, 107 points. I've never seen anything like it. And you see high scoring first quarters. It was 9 goals to 3. It was 12-goal quarter. And you sort of think, we might be lucky enough to see 12 goals for the rest of the game. No. Both teams, they put the foot down, and we saw a goal-kicking exhibition like nothing else. I can't understand just the free-flowing pace of the game, and I will get criticised for this, but the best player on the ground by the length of the Flemington Straight, we saw 3 players kick 5 goals or more, but they did not really feature in my impact players. Ned Moyle. He's got to be the stiffest tall man in the AFL VFL program at the moment, because if Jared Witts goes down, he gets an automatic recall. But he's a ruckman midfielder, and he dominated on Sunday afternoon.
Well, you won't get any stick because the coaches actually agreed with you. The AFL, or the VFL coaches' votes that were released this morning, they actually had 3 players tied for top points on 8 votes each. Ned Moyle, one of those, alongside the 6-goal hero in Brodie McLaughlin, which was interesting, seeing as he was actually dropped on Friday afternoon to get it. Well, we always knew he was going to play, but the funny buggers that AFL teams play with their selections. But he kicked 6 and got 8 votes, and Braden Fiorini was the other one who was dropped from the AFL team and came back and picked up 8 votes as well. But you said you haven't seen anything like that before, and that's because it hadn't happened before. Yeah. Simple as that. That was Gold Coast's highest ever score in state league football, beating 180, 26-24, 180, which they kicked against Labrador back in 2013. Their previous highest score in the VFL was 131, so they blew that out of the water. Not their biggest ever win, because that win against Labrador 10 years ago was 145 points, but their biggest win in the VFL by a long, long way. I think it was previously 69 against Port and Melbourne last year. It was Geelong's biggest defeat. All sorts of records falling in this game, and yeah, they just, it was a good old fashioned shootout, and only one team brought guns and the other team took knives.
Shout out to Bailey Humphries, the number 6 draft pick in the AFL last year, kicked the Smithies goal of the round, and I'm sort of riding high, 10 foot tall and bulletproof at the moment, because they've got a good run on the socials with thousands of people viewing that. But I did get the tip off from the day before in my other line of work with the Gippsland footy netball regions, where one of the guys that I was working with, a mate of yours, said keep an eye out for Bailey Humphries. He's a great player to come and watch. And then lo and behold, 24 hours later, he kicked that gem, and I've got a fair idea of what this kid's all about.
Yeah, no, he's looks like a very good player, Bailey Humphrey, and he's obviously helped you take my title on the top of the Smithy snags list. Didn't get one this week, but it doesn't worry me when you see that many really good goals tipping you out. So I don't know why we're taking the credit for the Smithy snags, because it's the players who actually have to go out and kick them.
It's the voices that bring it. It's the voices that bring the excitement to it, which is awesome. We'll take some credit for it sometimes, mate. Now we are a little bit pressed for time this week, but let's quickly go through the VFLW results from the weekend. I guess the big result there, Casey Demons took down Darebin by 122 points in a result that again shocked the rest of the competition in one of 2 big Sunday games this past weekend.
Yeah, once again, records falling there. That is the Casey Demons. That's the first time Casey's kicked over 100 points in a game, and they've gone through to 130. So it's obviously their highest score, their biggest win. It's actually the highest score kicked by any team in the VFLW competition since Darebin themselves kicked 135 against Seaford back in August 2017. So yeah, they kicked the sweep. They got themselves a wonderful start with 6 goals in the first quarter, and they just kept going as the Suns did in the VFL. And yeah, just an outstanding performance by the Demons. A bit of a worry for the Falcons. They're a little bit undermanned at the moment, if that's the right term. A little bit short on troops, and Casey, well, they took full advantage and blew them away.
In the grand final rematch, the Saints turned the tables at home against the Bombers, winning that one by 25 points. I know we touched on it last week, but that's a massive turnaround. The Southern Saints, they have reaffirmed themselves as a genuine title contender this year.
Yeah, goalless in last year's grand final, so that would have been really stinging them. And then Essendon actually, I think, rested a couple of players under the rules of how long they play and that sort of thing for this particular game. And the Saints, well, it took them 10 minutes to break through and get that goal. Remembering, of course, no goals the previous time they played them. But once they got that goal after quarter time, they just took control, and Essendon actually failed to kick a goal after about the 15-minute mark of the first quarter themselves. So a wonderful performance by the Saints. The actual teams that ran out were quite a bit different, probably about 10 players different in each team. But that will certainly give the Southern Saints a fair bit of confidence, knowing that they've ended an undefeated streak from the Bombers that stretched right back to the 2021 preliminary final.
It was a monster effort there by the Saints, and I'll go through some of the results from Saturday before we start to look into this weekend's games. The first few games we saw on Saturday, April Fool's Day, we saw some cliffhangers. Geelong defeated Carlton by 1 point, and the Box Hill Hawks defeated the Western Bulldogs by 1 point. Some tight games to start Saturday afternoon round 2 footy in the Rebel VFLW competition, Rhodesy.
This time last year, Box Hill, they were obviously still known as Hawthorn. They beat the Western Bulldogs 108-7. So that is the turnaround. That is, and it's not the Hawks dropping off. The Bulldogs basically went out and recruited a completely new team for this year. I think they had 15 first gamers back in round 1, and they ran the Casey Demons to 14 points out at Ballarat. Now they've run the Hawks to 1 point in round 2. So that's good to see. That the team that really struggled to even score in games last year, they were held scoreless once and goalless another 2 or 3 times, I think. I've got a feeling they were lucky to have even kicked 100 points for the year. So to get back, it's heartbreak for them that they didn't get the points, but certainly there's a lot to be excited about at I'll have to say Skinner reserve, because Whit Noville's out of action. But yeah, that's a really good game for them. And Geelong, a big upset against Carlton, who is going to be a good team this year. So that's a big turnaround. Port Melbourne's massive win over Collingwood, that's a turn up as well. So I think I'm looking at those results there, and there's 1, 2, 3. I only got 3 out of 6 again in the VFLW. So that just tells you that we've got some good competition going on.
And ladies and gentlemen, we've got Rhodesy, who is the expert on the VFLW competition. So if he can't even get a 60% strike rate, then I think we've all got no chance on being able to tip well this year, which is great. North Melbourne continued on their winning ways as well, taking down Williamstown by 11 points, which was a great effort there.
Andy, sorry. Before you move on from that one, a big congratulations to Williamstown's best player in Ruby Tripodi, who, she had a very, very good game in that losing game against North Melbourne. Had 21 disposals, 6 marks, 4 tackles. And what did it mean? North Melbourne drafted her last night. So there you go. 9 players from the Rebel VFLW were drafted in the supplementary draft last night. And Ruby Tripodi is probably the highest profile one of those. So good luck, good on her, and good luck heading across to the Kangaroos.
Congratulations to all those that did get drafted this week ahead of the upcoming AFLW season. You are catching up on the VFL 23 here. We've got Rhodesy, you've got Yeendy. Make sure you jump on board and catch us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Radio, and of course on YouTube. While we're on the VFLW, mate, I want to get your tips with the 6 games to come across this coming Easter weekend over the next couple of minutes.
Big game on Friday morning, the derby, the Old Firm derby, I suppose you'd call it, Williamstown versus Port Melbourne. Williamstown had a good win in the pre-season, but I think Port's going better now, and with Tripodi gone, you'd expect Port Melbourne to win that game. Western Bulldogs versus North Melbourne, that's going to be interesting, given how well the Bulldogs have gone without winning. But until they get over the line, you think you've got to go for the undefeated Kangaroos to get the points in that game. Casey Demons in wonderful form at the moment, as we saw against Darebin. I will tip them to beat Collingwood. That's the 3rd Good Friday game, a feast of footy on Good Friday. I think Geelong will continue on their winning ways. They'll take care of Darebin down at Deakin Reserve. That's it, Shepparton. Deakin University on Saturday. I think Essendon will bounce back at the Hangar and beat Carlton, and I'm going for the Southern Saints to continue on their merry way at Moorabbin against the Hawks. But that will be an absolute beauty of a game too.
Easter Sunday football doesn't get much bigger and better than that. I'm just going to go through this weekend's games in the Smithies VFL before we talk through about what's happening. On Thursday, we've got Brisbane Lions v Collingwood at Brighton Homes Arena. Good Friday footy, we've got North Melbourne v Carlton over at Arden Street. followed by Williamstown and Port Melbourne over at DSV Stadium. On Saturday, we've got 3 games. We've got Coburg v GWS at Piranha Park, Southport v Werribee Tigers at Fankhauser Reserve, and we've got Richmond and Footscray over at Punt Road. And on Sunday, we've got 3 big games: Sandringham v Gold Coast Suns, Northern Bullants v Essendon and Casey over at Frankston, followed by a good old-fashioned curtain raiser at the G. We've got Geelong v Box Hill Hawks. Rhodesy, I understand you're pulling double duties this week. Where are you going to go, and how are those games going to unfold?
Yeah, 5 games, 5 days of football this weekend. How good is it in the VFL from lunchtime Thursday through to lunchtime on Monday? Outstanding. I am going to be at DSV Stadium on Friday afternoon for the huge derby, the Johnson Callaghan Cup, Williamstown versus Port Melbourne. Both teams coming off good wins. Let me rephrase that. Both teams coming off good games on the weekend. Port Melbourne didn't get the chocolates, but Williamstown did against a woefully wasteful Frankston. It's never a bad contest between those 2 teams. That should be an absolute cracker. And added to it is the 100th VFL game of a one club stalwart in Jake Greiser for Williamstown. So fantastic effort from him. I actually spoke to him today, and so very shortly we'll hear from Jake Greiser and see what he had to say in the lead up to his 100th game. And then on Saturday morning, I'm back. A short turnaround. I'm at Piranha Park on Saturday. Coburg taking on GWS. My first look at both these 2 teams for the season. So I look forward to that. I'm not ruling Coburg out with a chance, especially based on the way the Giants went last time they were in Melbourne 2 weeks ago. But you'd expect the Giants to win, and I'm going to go for Williamstown at home to win those 2 games. So, before we look at the other results, let's have a listen to what Jake Greiser had to say leading up to his 100th game. Jake, 100 games for the Seagulls. Congratulations, mate. What does it mean to you?
Thanks, Brendan. Look, mate, it's an absolute honour, to be honest with you. It's been a long journey. I think it's 10th season now. So, for me, I'm just super, super proud to be able to get out there and tick off the 100 this week is going to be pretty exciting.
The number of players to reach 3 figures these days are reducing, and it's even rarer to do it for one club. What is it about Williamstown that has kept you there for 10 years, you say now?
Yeah, look, it's firstly the club itself has been amazing. Like since day one, it just sort of felt like it was home for me, and the players, the staff, the coaches, everyone involved within the club has been amazing. And like I said, it's just sort of really accepting. We're all sort of like-minded, and for myself, it's just felt like I said just before, for day one, just felt like home, and I couldn't really see myself anywhere else, really.
Was it a natural progression from the Western Jets once you missed the draft, or were there other options for you?
Yeah, there was a few VFL clubs, but usually you sort of either go to Werribee or Williamstown through the Jets program. But yeah, like I said, the footy club at Williamstown were just too good to sort of say no to, really.
Yeah, no worries, mate. And playing the milestone against the old rivals in Port on the big stage on Good Friday, it's a nice added touch for you.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty exciting. You probably don't want to verse anyone else other than the big rivals of Port Melbourne on Good Friday, first home game as well, and the 100th on the same day makes it that extra bit exciting. So, with all those things considered, it's going to be super, super exciting and a tough battle.
It seems to be coming up a bit over the last couple of years. I think Tom O'Sullivan played his milestone against you guys a couple of years ago, and if I remember rightly, you had one last year too. Was that Tom Downey, who was new to the club but played his 100th against Port Melbourne? It just seems to bob up that way.
Yeah, you're right actually, and it's sort of nice that it has bobbed up this way as well. That like I said, 2 rivals and 2, I guess, standalone teams that have a great history. It just adds that bit extra to the game as well. So yeah, it's going to be a hot game.
Sure, mate. We'll go back to the start where you made your debut late in the 2015 season. Just ended up missing out on that premiership, and then of course we know what happened in 2019 when you were so close. How high up the list of things is that driving you to stay at Williamstown and stay in the VFL to get back up to the top?
Oh, that's at the top. Yeah, I just want to be involved in a flag, and like you said, I've missed out 15. Obviously, 2019 was a tough day in the end, but yeah, that's still the driving factor why I'm still here playing VFL. I want to, be able to celebrate have a reunion in 10, 20 years time, knowing that we got a flag and I was a part of it. So keep trying to push forward with the club and set them up for success is really the main goal for me. And if I can be a part of that, that'll be unreal.
When a lot of your, I suppose, contemporaries retired or moved on at the end of 2021, you found yourself in unfamiliar territory last year, having a bit of a battle. How hard was that when everyone at Williamstown is used to be contending every year?
Yeah, it was a bit tough to deal with at first. Like nearly every season we had made the prelim, and then having a tougher year with some injuries and a very young list. We had our obstacles to sort of overcome, but having lost a few closer games, and then it sort of felt like winning was going to be a tough task at times. But to our credit, the boys sort of didn't really drop our heads, and I felt like we were still in it every week. I still went to every game thinking we can win. I think that sort of has held well with us for this year, knowing that we've got a few new guys. But at the same time, once the chemistry is going to start to continue to build, pretty confident that this group's a pretty resilient one and that we can continue to push hard each week.
For sure. And you mentioned a couple of those recruits that have come in, like Marty Hoare, Oscar McDonald, Harry Jones, these sort of guys, and bringing back some of your old mates like Ben Jolly and Jace Pongrassic, Nick Ebinger and Josh Pickus. Is that winning aura starting to come back, you think, at Williamstown?
Yeah, I think it is. And we've gained some, like you've just rattled off some great experience in those people. And we've got some ex-AFL, we've got some club legends in Jolly, Pongrassic, Pickers, Ebinger coming back are super important for us as well. So I feel like we've got a really good balance at the moment. And having the new guys of the, Marty Hoare, Jones, Oscar McDonald, Corey Allison, these sorts of guys are providing just a bit of that extra edge that we may have, been lacking at times in the past. And then also providing some great leadership as well. So it's really nice to have these people a part of the club.
For sure, mate. And I noticed that Williamstown went past 1,000 members again this week. So it just suggests you've really got a great and loyal supporter group that you get to play for every Saturday or Friday this week.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, this Friday. Yes, you're right. The supporters, as we all know, is what sort of makes the club, and hitting that 1,000 milestone is awesome for us. And it's really what we play for, isn't it? Having the ability to get out there and put some smiles on people's faces when we do get the win. There's nothing better than really walking back into the change rooms and getting a round of applause when you've ticked off a win and the supporters are really happy. So having that support through the membership has been really nice.
Thanks, mate. And you were spoken about the higher profile guys, but you mentioned some of the younger guys who got a chance last year to play some regular football. Who should we be really looking out for from that group, and even the new young ones to have a breakout season for you?
Yeah, first sort of players that spring to mind would be Jack Toner coming back from his ACL. He's due to step up and sort of go really well this year. I think he's bounced back well from his injury. Corey Preston looking to have another great year. Noah Gadsby, Daly Andrews, these sorts of guys are really stepping up. And you can sort of see over the last couple of years with a few of these guys that they've gone from being a little bit inexperienced and younger, and then sort of grown in confidence over the last 12 to 18 months. So I think those guys are really going to have a great year.
For sure, man. You just mentioned Noah Gadsby. I did the game last Saturday night. That that pass into Joel Atavi when Frankston was coming hard at you in the last quarter. I just thought that was something special and really broke the back of the game. Shows what he's capable of.
Yeah, that's it. Noah's a very talented player and one of the fittest players I've actually played with. So he had plenty of run in his legs later in the game. And yeah, he just has these moments of brilliance that can really help us. And that was pretty clear towards the end of the game against Frankston.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, good luck on Friday. Good Friday. It feels weird to say Friday for the second week in a row. And yeah, hopefully we get a big crowd out there on Good Friday to get behind you, and you have a great day and a great rest of the year for Williamstown.
Thanks, Brendan. Super excited for it, mate. And hopefully we get plenty down there. And yeah, hopefully we get the win. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, it was a fantastic interview there. Great insight. Well done, Rhodesy, the voice of the VFL and the VFLW. I might end up having the match of the weekend this week. I've been losing sleep over it. I've been pumped. I've been excited. I've got my first trip into the Combox over at Michael Voss Stadium, heading over for Brisbane Lions v Collingwood. And I've been watching these teams. Watched the game with the Lions beating Footscray the other night, and then I was watching attentively your insights into Collingwood's game against Port Melbourne, and this shapes up to be a genuine blockbuster ahead of the Easter weekend.
Yeah, question. We know the Brisbane Lions are a great team. We think Collingwood are a very, very good team. They're in great form. This is their first massive test, same as at AFL level. If Collingwood can go up to Queensland and win either one or both of these games, you'll know in that competition that they are the real deal. I'm tipping the Brisbane Lions to win, but it should be an absolute beauty one for sure. And I'll be glued to the television at 1 o'clock tomorrow on Thursday afternoon.
Don't pay much attention to the commentary, mate. Just keep that one on mute. I'm just going to be intrigued to see if Collingwood get ahead, much like they did last week against Port Melbourne, and Port Melbourne came and chased hard, and Port Melbourne were unable to hit the front and get that psychological edge of being able to stay in front, whereas Brisbane Lions, as we spoke about, had to come from behind, and once they got in the front, they stayed there. If Collingwood get in front, I'm intrigued to see whether Brisbane can do it 3 weeks in a row. I'm not too sure, but I think it's going to be a very interesting contest, particularly with the seniors being played over at the Gabba later on. I'm hoping to see a lot of both AFL teams coming around and embracing the spectacle over at Michael Voss Stadium.
Yeah, no question about that. I'm sure Ben Hudson's feeling the same way. He doesn't want to be pulling any more of his hair out in the first halves of games because one day it will hurt them.
Absolutely.
If they give up leads, if they give up a lead to Collingwood, they won't get it back, I don't think.
Not at all. I'll go through your tip for North Melbourne v Carlton.
I'm going to go for, at home at Arden Street, I'm going to go for the Kangaroos, actually, but there's really nothing between these two teams. Carlton coming back to Melbourne after a disappointing result will be wanting to answer, but North Melbourne narrowly.
Southport v Werribee.
Southport to win at home. I think they'll bounce back. They'll be hungry. Werribee's had a bye after their narrow miss against the Brisbane Lions, but yeah, the Sharks I don't think will be wanting to lose 2 in a row.
Richmond v Footscray.
Tough one. This really tough one. I'm going to lean towards Footscray. Just again, nothing between them, but a couple of injuries for Richmond. It'll depend on selection who comes back into the AFL team as to what they've got available at VFL level.
Will Gold Coast inflict the same pain that they did on Geelong against Sandringham, or will Sandringham come back?
What a game this is! What a game this is at Moorabbin at RSCA Park. Yeah. You'd think the Suns should win, but yeah, who really knows?
Who wins out of North and Essendon, just quickly?
Essendon to win that game, which has, of course, been moved to ETU Stadium with Preston City Oval not being ready for play yet.
Casey and Frankston, quick one?
Yeah, big win for the Casey Demons. Unfortunately, Frankston will put in an effort, but Casey will be too strong.
Geelong and Box Hill.
I don't know. I'll go for Box Hill.
Fantastic. Well, Rhodesy, thanks so much for your company. Thanks so much for everyone jumping on board VFL 23. We look forward to seeing you next week, and enjoy your Easter. And we look forward to a big blockbuster round of footy in round 3.
My word, mate. Eat too much chocolate, I will be.